The KVK 1 and 2 provides us with two very specific and strong and powerful commanders that you can actually use in the late game, and they are commonly seen in the late game. And of course, I'm talking about Alex and YSG. So if you want to know who of these two is better and who you should invest in, well, if you want to know, then stick to the video. But before we go ahead and start the video, feel free to subscribe to the channel, it will help me out a lot. For now, what's up going guys, my name is Nico and I welcome you yet to another video. Yes, I've talked about it, Alex and YSG are the two pros and the best commanders in the KVK 1 and 2, and I'm not including Minamoto because he's a completely paid to win commander, so I'm considering only Alex and YSG. Now we are gonna talk about the pros from Alex. Well, first of all, it's his shielding. He provides a super powerful shield, which is like a damage absorbing shield for 4 seconds, and that's just really nice. His second skill, it's instant proc damage and healing reduction, so against all like Richard I, and you will see a lot of them, he's just absolutely great. On his third and fourth skill, he has tons of stats, which is just really nice. Yes, this is just a if he does not have a shield, he gains 40 attack. If he does have a shield, it's 30% defense. So yeah, this is a conditional stat, but he still it's like 70 stats. Okay, this is just huge. And here you have more speed, which is also for every single infantry. This is just super nice. And then we gotta talk about this super powerful debuff, which is up to 3 nearby enemy troops take 30% more damage for 4 seconds, which is absolutely amazing. Then we also have the very powerful thing, which is called after the KVK 2, and that is a relic buff, where he gets actually on level 1 10% defense and 3% normal damage reduction, and on level 2 he gets 20% defense and like 6% damage reduction, which is very powerful in my opinion. But what really pops up why you should actually think about Alexander the Great is his transition into the late game, because there is a option for him, and that is called Liu Che, which is probably the most OP commander right now in Rise of Kingdoms. So overall, Alexander the Great is a very much playable commander, and you should actually think about him in KVK 2. Now that we have talked about the pros, there are of course some cons. One of those cons is that he comes in KVK 2. KVK 2 is unfortunately right before KVK 3, which is right where you can actually unlock Liu Che, Zhuge Liang, and Hermann Prime. And yes, Liu Che and Alex are right now meta commander pairing, and yes, I do not like William Wallace. In my opinion, he is just not better than Alexander the Great. But the only problem with Alex is, will he be playable in like 1 or 2 years? Because if we see in like 1 year a better commander pairing for Liu Che, then absolutely you should do a better commander pairing for Liu Che, because Liu Che will last like almost, in my opinion, like at least for the next 4 or 5 generations, because Liu Che is just so strong. Biggest con for Alexander the Great is the probability for being outdated in the next years, and I would say that for Alexander the Great you have to spend a lot on him, like gold hats. So yes, he's super strong, but you have to get a lot of gold hats, that's one thing, and of course you also have to get his both museum relics, which basically means that you really have to go all in into Alexander the Great. And now we have YSG, and now we are gonna talk about the pros, of course. And the first pro is his super AoE damage, because yes, non-expertise, I'm not gonna talk about him not being expertise, because both, if you want to think about YSG and Alex, both need to be expertise. That's probably the biggest con on both of these, but yes, they both need to be expertise. But let's talk about the super AoE damage that he provides, which is up to 5 nearby enemy troops gain 1700 damage factor, or like, yeah, this is absolutely broken, okay? This is so much, and this is just so powerful. And yeah, his second skill is not that bad, but there's only a 10% chance to actually gain those 100% rage per second. Is it per second? Yeah, per second, and those 100% attack. So there is a condition in order for getting at least some stats. His third skill is absolutely garbage for open field, and of course his fourth skill is absolutely great because 50% skill damage bonus is just so huge. Another very important pro for YSG is that he is warp chaining so well, and yes, investing into him is very it really depends whether you really want to go for him or not, but you will see that chaining with him is just so delightful and it's so easy. But if you're not a chainer, then you will see that he won't pay off what you have invested into him. Another very powerful pro for him is that he's a KVK 1 commander, so you will basically get him like at day 90, 93, something like that. So very soon, very fast in the beginning of the actual play. And the last very powerful pro for him is his relic, which you get in KVK 3. And that relic is very similar to Alexander the Great, because at level 1 you will receive 10% defense and 3% skill damage bonus, and at level 2 you will receive a 20% defense bonus and 5% skill damage bonus. So his relic bonuses are very similar to the ones of Alexander the Great. Now we have talked about the pros, and then of course there are some cons. Now the first bad con is that he has a very bad pairing, because there is Thutmose, yes there is Richard I, yes there is Charles Martel, but if you think about it, in order for YSG to work, he needs somebody with a lot of stats. If you want to pair him with Richard I in KVK 1 and eventually in KVK 2, you have to have Richard I at least. If you're using Richard I in the open field, you need him at 5511, or if not, maybe even 5551 because of Richard I's stats. If you're using Charles Martel, Charles needs to be 5511 to be paired with YSG, and we are still talking about YSG being expertise. And you don't want to invest any gold heads into Richard. Like, yes, you want your Richard to be at 5111, but you don't want to invest any gold heads into Charles Martel or Thutmose, because both of these commanders are very powerful and have a lot of stats, but they are gold key commanders. And if you're not a whale or a high spender, then you should definitely not invest gold heads into gold key commanders. Another very bad con for YSG, he has, like I said, no stats, and he's super slow. So what I basically mean with that, yes, his second skill gives him a lot of stats, but that's just conditional skill, so it's not always. He has no defense and no health and no march speed and no attack bonus, like basic attack bonus, like it's just a conditional skill. So there is just, yes, there is those 50% skill damage bonus, but that I'm not including as a stat. That's just a really nice, like, I wouldn't call it buff, but like bonus stats for his skill damage, but that's like it. So basically another very important con is he is a super glass cannon. He has no sustain, and because he's slow, if a Minamoto or a Saladin or a Cao Cao catches up, he will absolutely destroy YSG, unfortunately. And then we have a last con, then in my opinion, that is very important for YSG. He is not a late game meta commander. As for right now, Alexander the Great has at least Liu Che, and it's performing very nice. Eventually, as a strong, maybe one of the strongest, if not the strongest, commander pairings, Liu Che Alex. Whereas if you pair Zhuge Liang with YSG, it gets so fastly swarmed down that even YSG can't even use his super AoE damage. And the bad thing is, Zhuge Liang has a stronger AoE damage factor and he does not even need to be expertise. So there is another very bad thing about YSG. He's just not a meta commander in the late game, whereas you can have an argument for Alex being at least a little bit meta because Liu Che. So there you have it. Do I think YSG or Alex? I would always go with the Alexander the Great because there are just more options with him. You can use him with Liu Che. There is a super small chance that if you really don't want to go with Liu Che, which I don't understand why you wouldn't do, there is still the option of using a Guan Yu with him or the Scipio Prime. I would absolutely not use William Wallace with Alexander the Great. So Alex has, in my opinion, the upper hand, and I think it's because he has, although the damage that he provides is like less than what YSG has, he's much faster, has a better commander pairing in the late game, has a much more powerful debuff, has more stats and better stats, of course. And the only thing what he does not have is the AoE, but he has shielding, which basically means that although he does not have AoE damage, he has a way better sustain on the field than YSG. And there you have it. This is my opinion. I think Alexander the Great is just a better option than YSG. If you don't agree with me, feel free to comment under the video, and yeah, that's about it. Feel free to subscribe, and I will see you in the next time. Goodbye.